Hi, everyone. Welcome to the July 28th meeting for the Arizona Association of Environmental Professionals. My name is Eileen Baden. I'm the current president for AZAEP. Let's just do a quick introduction of our board really quick, if you guys want to put your video on. So I've been the president for the last 2 years, and we'll be doing our swearing in ceremony later on tonight. But my name is Eileen Baden. I work in the School of Geographical Sciences and Urban Planning at Arizona State University. And before that, I was an environmental planner. Jeff?
I'm Jennifer Jennings. I'm a current at-large board member and incoming president of the group. Nice to meet you all.
I'm Jeff Johnson. I'm the current vice president and the future vice president.
Yay!
I'm Jenny Curay. I'm an at-large board member for AZAEP and will be for another year or so, I believe.
Is it me? I'm David McIntyre. I'm an at-large board member, and I'm the incoming secretary.
Great. Let's see, do we have anybody else? Any other board members? Okay, so let's see. Let me go back to the screen. So we have our current AZAEP membership. We have 195 regular members, 30 student members, and student membership is free if you know anybody who's interested. 14 corporate members, and then our corporate membership is $150 yearly, and it allows for an unlimited number of employees to attend meetings at the member rate. Typically, our meetings are held in person. We usually have dinner, and obviously things have changed in the last couple months. So right now we've been having our meetings virtually. Our corporate members are included here on the page, and they also, we allow them to do free job postings. So a typical job posting on our website is $75, and for corporate members, it's free. The scholarship fund, if you'd like to make a donation to the scholarship fund, you can send a check to AZAEP at P.O. Box 69, Tucson, AZ 85702, and with scholarship written on the description. We're usually we'll be holding raffles at our meetings that are in person to help continue to raise money for those funds. Okay, and so I guess what we're gonna do now is go ahead and do, well, actually, Jeff, maybe we'll wait to see if, let me see. Jeff, do you want to wait to see if Abby joins, or do you want to go ahead and do the presentation?
I think maybe we just move ahead with it, and then if she comes in, we can
swear her in
get
later.
up afterwards. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, let's see. So just really quick. Let me see here. Okay, so we'll do the swearing in ceremony. Well, really quick, because let me just move this down. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys this because I think it's so funny. So I became president of AZAEP back in July of 2018 when I just had my daughter Edie, and she was only a couple weeks old at this point, and you can see in the picture on the right-hand side that this is just today, and how much has changed in 2 years. So I really just want to say thank you to everybody who supported the AZAEP board and supported our organization through this time. It's been really great getting to know everybody and getting to know all the board members. I'm really grateful for all the work we've done with the Amy Edwards Memorial Scholarship. We were able to raise over $15,000 through a GoFundMe account, and all the hard work we did with the Environmental Career Fair at the University of Arizona last year. And it's just been really great to see such an increase in participation at our virtual meetings as well. So just really thankful for the opportunity to get to serve as president for AZAEP for the past 2 years. And I'm really looking forward to everything that the new board will accomplish. And I hope you guys know I'm here for you, anything that you need. So, well, thanks again. And without further ado, we'll get started with our oath.
Let me just say thanks to you, Eileen, for all your hard work during this time. I remember talking to you about wanting to run before you did, and did a great job, and it's been a great 2 years, and we really appreciate it. And we'll definitely keep pulling you back in whenever we're able to.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate that. Yeah, I really enjoyed my time here. I love AZAEP. I was secretary a couple of years before I became president. And even when I didn't have an official role, I was still involved and bugging Mike Dawson, our past president, all the time with ideas and other stuff going on. So yeah, I'm really excited. The national conference is going to be held in Phoenix next May. So looking forward to see how I can get students involved in volunteering for that, and continuing to help spread the word about AZAEP is definitely something I'll continue to do. So, all right, great. Well, if you guys want, then just Jennifer, Jeff, and David, if you want to lift your right hand, and then I will just repeat after me. So and then you'll state your name.
I, David McIntyre,
Do solemnly promise to uphold the bylaws
Do solemnly
promise to uphold the bylaws
of the Arizona Association of Environmental Professionals
of the Arizona
Association of Environmental Professionals,
and adhere to the National Association of Environmental Professionals
and adhere to the National Association
of
of
Environmental Professionals
Code of Ethics.
Code of Ethics.
Code of Ethics.
Code of Ethics.
I agree to promote the goals
I agree to promote the goals
of membership professional development,
membership
professional development,
environmental stewardship, and improving communication within the environmental community.
and improving communication within the environmental community.
Congratulations! Yay, our new board members.
Thank you, Eileen.
So congratulations, you guys. Best of luck with everything. I'm really, really thankful for getting to know everybody so well these past 2 years serving on the board. So again, anything you guys need, let me know, and just really happy for you guys. So
I just want to reiterate what Jeff said. You've done an amazing job in the last 2 years, and your little girl is so cute. This is the first time I've seen pictures of her. So go enjoy your time off, and we'll keep bugging you.
yeah, I know.
As much as you'll let us.
It's been kind of nutty with switching to everything being online, and then yes, so it's been a little hectic lately, but definitely want to support AZAEP the most that I can in the future, continue growing our network. Great. Well, let me go ahead and actually, I don't think I really need to share the screen again. I'll just quickly say that yeah, I'm so happy to have Anya Corzo. No, I'm still not saying that. I'll let you say it yourself. I'm sorry. Yeah, Anya, we have Anya from the Central Arizona Conservation Alliance and Ariona, and they'll be talking a little bit more about the Central Arizona Conservation Alliance and what they do. So without further ado, I'll let Anya share her screen.
Hi everybody, my name is Anya Quiros, and I am the Central Arizona Conservation Alliance Engagement Coordinator, and with me here is Ariana Rashke, and she's the CAZCA Program Director. We're going to switch off a little bit in between the slides. I'll be controlling them, but we're really grateful to be here, and we're excited to show you what we do in our program. So I will go ahead and get this screen if my computer wants to unfreeze. Okay, here we go. All right. And let me go into, all right, so can everybody see okay? Let me just shrink this.
Looks good on my end.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, so again, my name is Anya, and we're really grateful to be here, and Ari's with me as well. So we are the Central Arizona Conservation Alliance, which is an initiative of the Desert Botanical Garden. And so, oh, for some reason, no. Okay, so today's agenda, so we're going to talk a little bit about CAZCA and our region, the challenges we have in conservation. We're also going to be exploring collective action, which is a framework that we, CAZCA, work under and work with. And we're also going to dive into the development of the regional open space strategy, which is one of our It's our guiding strategy, and it was a very involved stakeholder process. So we're excited to show you all of that in case you're not familiar. And then we'll just dive into, the work we do on the ground and some of our programs and initiatives, so you can get to know the different things that we're doing. And so starting from the CAZCA Genesis, and this actually is a picture of the Desert Botanical Garden, and our sort of history began at Desert Botanical Garden when the Center for Future of Arizona decided to put out a proposal to actually fund a project that would be guiding Arizona towards the Arizona we want. That was an initiative that came out of CFA. And so it really was an opportune time, because at that specific moment, the garden was going through a strategic planning process in which within that strategic plan, it called to convene a regional conservation think tank focused on the region's desert mountain preserves, and which was part of our advancing excellence in conservation. So it was really the garden's effort to try to expand outside of the garden walls to help the region, and of course this very unique place that we're in, the Sonoran Desert, and help conserve and protect some of our open spaces here. But why was this important, and why is CAZCA alive? Why did we decide to do this? Because we knew then, and we also know now, I'm sure all of you are familiar as well, that with a lack of strategic coordination and collaboration, if we don't have these things, conservation and conservation outcomes are very difficult to achieve. We know that we have to work together as a team, especially when we're talking about ecological regions, in order for us to really move forward and solve some of those biggest challenges. So, without collaboration, we can address some of our greatest conservation challenges, and not only the planets, but really our regions, and ensuring that we have these precious open spaces and the biodiversity in them for generations to come. And so with that in mind, some of the staff at the garden, and also some staff outside the garden, like Maricopa County Parks and Rec and a few others, came together to create the Conservation Alliance. The Central Arizona Conservation Alliance, which we call CAZCA, was founded in 2012 after going through the process of actually winning the CFA, or the 5 Communities Project. And we were funded, and we also received funding from the Nina Mason Charitable Trust. And so together with regional partners, we developed that long-term strategy, the ROS, the Regional Open Space Strategy, for the preservation of Maricopa County's open space to support a healthy ecosystem and provide beautiful, safe open spaces. But it goes beyond that as well. We focus a lot on collaboration and that strategic coordination that we need. And so CAZCA's mission is to lead community engagement, collaboration, and strategy to protect, restore, and promote desert open spaces in Central Arizona. CAZCA became sort of that answer to that lack of collaboration we were seeing in the region, in efforts to share resources and capacities to move conservation forward. Meanwhile, our vision is a sustainable preserved system that supports healthy ecosystems and provides beautiful, safe, open spaces for healthy communities. Really, the vision, I love our vision, and I love working for an organization that has a vision like this, because not only does it take into account what we would call maybe the wilderness areas or those larger county parks and preserves, but it also takes into consideration the urban spaces, in that synergy and that relationship that exists between our urban core and the overall health of our communities and access to nature, and the fact that we should all have that access to nature. And how do we do that so that we have these healthy communities that care about the Sonoran Desert in which we live in? So where does CAZCA work? So we focus primarily on Maricopa County, as you see outlined here, but we also function within the Huckton watersheds, which is that larger red dotted line that you can see. And so we have a pretty large area, but we wanted it to be not only politically, available, but we also wanted it to function ecologically. And so we function within the Sonoran Desert, which is a truly biodiverse desert, and it's actually one of the most biodiverse deserts we have. And it's a really thriving place. It's not a barren desert that we're trying to protect. We also have very charismatic wildlife, which is, iconic to this region. And it's also part of the mission to protect these species and protect the open spaces in which they live. So the Sonoran Desert, I'm sure you guys are familiar, it stretches from central north Arizona down all the way to Mexico into the Baja Peninsula. And there are, a whole host of charismatic, iconic species throughout this whole region, like the saguaros, cardones, and everything else that we know in between. So this is really our ecological region in which we work and that we try to protect. But within that, like I was saying before, there's also the urban core, right? City of Phoenix and Maricopa County are is one of the fastest growing counties in the US. I'm sure you've heard or you've sort of seen that stat that we have about 200 people. Well, before COVID, before all this happened, there was about 200 people that were arriving almost every day into our county. And so we are still a really fast growing county, which of course presents challenges, but also opportunities in how to engage and ensure that we plan adequately as we move forward. So what will this county look like 20 years from now? It's an important question to ask, especially when we're doing this kind of work. So these are maps from MAG, which is the Maricopa Association of Governments. And this is some of the projections that they're showing of the population increasing from now until 2040. And so taking a look at this, there's going to be a lot of land that is going to be developed, and we're looking at a big influx of people, and we have to be able to take this into account when we're thinking about what is the conservation action that we're going to have, that we want to have, and the impact. So right now, there's over 2 million acres planned for future development all around the region, especially when you look out to the West Valley. There's a lot of planned development. And again, even though it is a conservation challenge for us, it's also an opportunity for us to engage in better planning and better engagement of those important stakeholders as we move forward. So some of the conservation challenges that CAZCA tries to, the aims to work towards and resolving with our partners is that land use change, that habitat loss that we have, habitat degradation. There's also the research and knowledge gaps that occur when we're all working in silos, the lack of capacity to mitigate some of those threats and of course take care of management, the diminishing connection between people and nature, which is something we focus on a lot, and of course the lack of good public policy and funding. These are all big conservation challenges that we can't tackle alone, but we definitely do our best to try to engage our partners so we can move some of these challenges forward and find solutions. So with all of this being said, going back to that original point, collaboration is absolutely key. And it's really, again, within that mission that we have to ensure that we are filling in those gaps and bridging those connections so that we can collaborate better throughout this region. And so I will pass it on to Ari now, and she's going to talk a little bit about collective action and conservation and the framework that we're utilizing to move some of these initiatives forward and to move CAZCA forward.
Hey everyone. So as Anya mentioned, one of the things that we're really trying to do is utilize collaboration in the context of Maricopa County. Part of that is really important just due to the complexity of land use and sort of policymaking in our region. I'm sure that most of you are familiar with the fact that, basically to make a regional conservation plan for Maricopa work, we would have to collaborate with basically decision makers at all levels, including city, county level, at times state level. We have state park land, we have federal land, and we do have tribal land as well. And that doesn't even account for the complexity within the cities. So that's partially why we thought that collaboration is so key to kind of having those outcomes that Anya discussed. And so, collaboration in and of itself is pretty complicated, and making it work, you could go in and just hope for the best, or you could use a framework. And so we've decided to go with this collective impact framework. Some of you may be familiar with it, but essentially, we found it's fairly rare actually in conservation. So it's pretty exciting to be working with something like this and utilizing it in sort of attaining this regional conservation vision. So I'll just give a very brief background to what the framework is. for those of you who have seen it before, you know that you could talk about this forever. But I just want to give background for people that might not be familiar with it. So this figure here comes from the organization that sort of initially proposed this framework. And they called for these essentially 5 different elements of collective impact that make it successful. And so these elements are the backbone, which is an organization that sort of all the collaborating partners either, the backbone either facilitates what's going on in the collaboration, the partners may communicate through them. They're sort of a central point for the collaboration itself, the partnership. And that's really where we see CAZCA through the Desert Botanical Garden as being that functional backbone organization. And then, like I said, through that, you have continuous communication. We need to not only communicate among partners, but outside of the collaboration. We run into issues of conflict, issues of resources. We have to be really adaptable, like this year with the wildfires. So communication is really key to all of that. Another really important element is that common agenda. It's really hard to collaborate effectively unless we've all agreed on sort of the direction that we're going and the outcomes that we want to achieve. And so the mutually reinforcing activities are sort of, if we have a common agenda and we have communication and a backbone organization to facilitate this collaboration on a whole, are the activities that the partners are doing and that the collaboration is doing, are they reinforcing each other? Or alternatively, are they actually kind of doing the opposite? So in this case, as you would imagine, for collaboration, we want all the activity to sort of push forward that common agenda and strengthen the partnership as well. And finally, the last little element there is just a shared measurement system. It's kind of hard to move forward with a common agenda unless you know where you are in sort of that map of what you're doing, where you're going, how quickly you're getting there. So thanks, Anya. No worries. So this here is sort of a really good visual on what collective impact looks like functionally. And this is sort of where we're building our sort of functional basis. So if you envision CAZCA as this little blue backbone support, in this case, we're a single organization through DBG, but we're playing that backbone function. We have a steering committee. The steering committee for us is coming from different representatives from our key partners. And we're sort of early on, I would say, in this phase, but eventually our steering committee members will phase off after terms and we'll have new representatives. That way the steering committee maintains sort of a vibrancy and gives new people a chance to jump on and be more involved with what we're doing. And then you kind of have this larger ecosystem of community partners. We consider our partnership. They're all doing their work. They have different missions and work that they do and expertise, but we've all kind of agreed, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, on our regional goal or our common agenda is this regional open space strategy, or the ROS. So everyone is doing their own work, but sort of moving forward towards this shared vision of what we want Maricopa to be in the future. And then we have working groups that we've started to facilitate that sort of, you see these 2 directional arrows. There's information coming from us and from the steering committee to them, and then they're reporting back to us on what they're doing. So it's pretty complicated, but we do think this is a way to really leverage the resources that we have, because we're all familiar with the fact that conservation and environmental work isn't always the most, we don't always have the most resources. So working together gives us a chance to achieve a regional outcomes, essentially. All right, Anya. Did you want me to speak to this one?
So so it was just basically, this is who we are. We are really trying to move some of the collaborative initiatives forward by using the framework. And these are some of the pictures of us on the ground, and some of our different programs and some of the different efforts that we're trying to move forward. But no, it was just a pretty slide. And these are some of our partners in which we work with. And of course, this isn't the whole list. We have over 60 partners, and that's a very dynamic flow of depending on their priorities and sort of where they're at in their own cycle of moving through their strategic priorities. But we do have a set of core partners in which we work with closely throughout many of our initiatives and a lot of our work, including those working groups that Ari pointed out. And so these are just a few snippets of those. We're developing a fuller list that that is also on our website. But yeah, and so then we're into
that last slide, Anya. Sorry. Would you go back to that last one really quick? I just wanted to mention, I know Anya said that this isn't our full list. I slapped these logos on here more so to show the variety of partners that we have. So some of our partners might actually look at this and feel very disappointed that they're not on there. But the point being, we work with businesses, other nonprofits. You can see Maricopa County, the Forest Service. I just really wanted to show here that we have a big variety to the kinds of partners that come to the table and are working on this with us. So sorry, Anya, I just wanted to throw that out there.
No, that's perfect. Yeah, so I'll also ask Ari to jump in, and I can also jump in if you need me to, but moving into the development of that regional open space strategy and sort of what process we undertook. There might be people at the meeting today that were participating in some of these workshops and some of the meetings that we had, but this is one of the key products that we developed to move that common agenda forward and to find out what those challenges were in the region, but also what some of the, successes and opportunities that we could have through the building of this and developing that common agenda. So I'll let Ari take this over too.
Sure. So one thing I'll note before we sort of dive into the methodology of what we did, when CAZCA's team was thinking about developing a common agenda, a shared agenda, we didn't want to produce something that sort of just came from the minds of DBG or people that were sort of on the proto steering committee that existed at the time. We did want this to be a product of really intensive, a stakeholder process. I know that's kind of a buzzword these days, but when I walk you through this, you'll see it's genuine in this case. But we really wanted to develop something that everyone could get behind because they were at the table developing this vision, this plan. So I'll refer to it as the Ross. You can see here what the full name is, but so talk a little bit about what we did. So sort of the high view of what happened to produce the Ross, which if you guys have not seen that, I can put that into the chat when I'm done talking so you can check it out. But essentially we had a lot of different organizations actively engaged in the planning. Like I said, we wanted people to be at the table developing this common agenda with us so that we weren't handing them an agenda and saying, oh, this is what we think. And in order to make this happen, 80 plus meetings, and that was of smaller and larger groups that I'll talk about in a bit, but it was a lot of time, a lot of discussion, thinking about the goals and the action items and the feasibility and all of these different things. It took a lot of time, a lot of people. So you can kind of see that here. I won't go through each point, but you can tell this is a very intensive process. And when I say stakeholder consultation, that's really what it was. Constantly bringing people to the table to talk about what this shared vision, shared agenda would be. So the initial stage of this was essentially thinking about what are some of the primary goals we might have that would lead to this sort of regional vision of conservation where we have a balance of growth that we know is going to happen with the provision of open spaces for recreation as well as environmental uses. So that was this initial stage, and that was bringing people together again to talk about what are the basic goals that we might go after in order to attain our long-term vision. Once those goals were developed, there were essentially four different teams. So there were 4 goals identified, and then each sort of working group or team coalesced around the goal to talk about, if this is what we want to attain, what are the action items? What is the process by which we could get to that goal? And so you can kind of see with these complicated figures that there's a lot of back and forth. All those different meetings that we talked about earlier is a lot of conversation between people. But essentially, at this stage, these working groups, these goal teams are coming up with how do we attain our goal, at least move it forward in the next 3 to 5 years. So the final stage of this was to essentially get this regional advisory committee to look at what was put together and to really delve into the feasibility of the goals, the action items, how they would work together. And then adjustments were made based on that. Because, you know, we can have, what do I want to say? We can have a lot of goals, but because of everyone's perspectives, it was just necessary to have sort of an outside group to the original structure to come in and really look at what had been developed and to work on making this not only a shared vision for the future, but one that we really think we can actually do. So that was sort of the final stage. That doesn't take into account all of the work that Stacy did to then take all of this qualitative data and all of these discussions and then to produce a single book, which is, I think you can all imagine, just took a lot of time and love and passion. But that's the short sort of story of how this shared vision, shared agenda was created. And I don't know, Anya, do you want to cover these or?
Yeah, of course. So basically throughout that whole process, these were the 4 goals that the stakeholders and everybody coming together determined were not, and of course within each of these goals, there's various objectives and action items. So these are just sort of the umbrella term for what each of these goals represents. That first, Protect and Connect, Goal 1, is really about habitat connectivity and ensuring that we are creating those robust and resilient networks of natural areas. Meanwhile, Goal 2 is sustain and restore, as it says there, taking best care of what we already have. It's really about finding out what those best management practices can be, what are those gaps in knowledge that we have, and how do we ensure that those are shared and we all know, especially talking about invasive species, native plant material development. So there's a lot of action items and objectives surrounding that within Goal 2. Goal 3, love and support, growing champions for the Sonoran Desert. So really talking about that connection between people and nature and the work that needs to be done in order for us to build that constituency of support and to build those champions within the region that can help move the initiative forward from that ground level, from if people care about the Sonoran Desert, in that belief that if people care about the Sonoran Desert and the open areas and the open spaces that are theirs, we can build much faster action towards conservation. And of course, that has a lot of their own objectives and action items under that. And then finally, Goal 4, Coordinate and Elevate, is really about the sustainability of the network and the partnership, and how do we ensure that we build the mechanisms within CAZCA, like those working groups and the steering committee, but then also outside of CAZCA, so that that research sharing can keep going, keep happening. So really about the sustainability of who we are and what we do. Then we're actually going to move into taking this collaborative, collective impact model in the framework. These are some of the early results that we have seen through this process, and some of our learning, some of the lessons that we have learned, and again, some of those successes that we've had. Oh, Ari, do you want to take over, or?
Yeah, sure. So when I initially put this together, I wanted to put challenges first so we could talk about outcomes last and leave off on a happy note. But I do think that it's really important to talk about what has been challenging, because I think we all learn from sort of the struggles that we go through. So for us, some of the challenges that we've faced in this collaboration and using collective impact, that we feel like might be generalizable in the sense that it's worth sharing with others, you know, for discussion or so that other people can maybe learn from what we've gone through, are a few different things. So one of the challenges of collaboration is that people are people and we don't always get along as much as we might share the same sort of conservation goals. So I think when you're going to do a long-term collaboration, it's really key to think about early on, how are we going to deal with conflict, because it will arise in productive ways that can maintain the partnership and trust, because trust is really key to collaboration and conflict can undermine that. Similarly, competition for resources is a big deal for conservation and environmental work in general. There's not necessarily a lot of resources to go around. And that's partially why CAZCA exists. But all of our partners, including ourselves, we all need resources to keep going. So it does become a challenge at times to continue working together when we might be eyeing the same buckets of money to keep ourselves going. And I think, again, that's something that you can plan for to some extent, or at least discuss with your partners if you're going into something like this. How are we going to deal with those things in ways that doesn't undermine trust, or that we can sort of share in this ecosystem of limited resources, or find ways to identify new resources, ideally. And the last one here is that, interestingly, but maybe not surprisingly, because I think this happens a lot, you spend a lot of time and energy producing a really great plan, but implementing the plan is something entirely different. And there are a lot of people who, you know, they've gone through the same thing, they come up with this really wonderful plan, and then it sits on a shelf. That's not what CAZCA wants to do, but it's definitely a struggle for us at times to really get our partners to commit to the shared vision that they helped create, because our team is like me and Anya and we can't at all make the Ross happen. Although if we could, I think we should get an award, because that'd be great. But getting that commitment from our partners to really like follow through with the goals that they identified is a bit of a challenge. And I think all of these things are things that we will address in the future, but it's going to be an ongoing challenge with all of these things. So like I said, we want to share not only the accomplishments, but the things that are difficult in collaboration. Do you want me to keep going, or?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Okay, so now we're diving into things that I think we've done on the ground that are really, really amazing. This is an image from the green print. And what I have here is, this is an example of democratizing data. It's a really hard word for me to say. But essentially, the green print brings together data from many of our partners that if you know where to look for this kind of data, you could dig it up, you could ask people for it. But for someone who might be doing work as a volunteer, or really working with a smaller nonprofit where they don't necessarily have the resources or the connections to gather all this data, it can be very difficult. So the green print serves as a way to get that information out there to whoever needs it. And of course, we focus the analysis layers of this tool on things that are relevant to the ROS and to our work. So here, this layer that I'm showing is a habitat connectivity layer that comes primarily from Arizona Game and Fish. We have some other layers as well, looking at things like heat vulnerability within the urban area, as well as water resources. But the production of something like this was a lot of work, and it really took that partnership that we have to produce, because like I said, this data comes from a lot of different places and different partners, and we're bringing that all together in one place. And it's free to use. So it's out there depending on, it's out there for people to use no matter what their organization might be doing. And if it's a small grassroots kind of thing as well, it's supporting that decision making at all levels.
And then another thing that was very important and a success for us was that interorganization collaboration, and something that we've sort of been kind of talking about as we're going through this presentation. But this was another process we went through in using some of the layers from the green print in order to identify potential areas of conservation value. But this process was something that was taken by developers and the conservation community, but also other nonprofits and organizations within the public health sphere. And so this has been one of our sort of biggest successes, I would say, is the ability to bring people together and really get their input and get their feedback, not only through the development of the ROS, but opportunities like this one, in which we really were working across municipalities and across different fields and sectors to try to figure out what the best way to collaborate is in order to protect certain areas within this region. And so I don't know if there's anything else you want to add about this, Ari, but for us, this was a really great workshop that we gave that really brought those people together to move that collaboration forward. And one of the things we always hear from our partners is that they are appreciative of having a space so they can come together, where they can come together and talk out what they're doing, where are they at, and their priorities, and how we can actually find those synergies so that we can collaborate more closely. It's something that we are proud to do, and we're always very excited to see when people are together in a room or a digital room, the collaboration that can happen and the different conversations that can go on. Another one of our successes that we're also very excited about and very proud of is the shared citizen science efforts that we have. This is a snapshot of our invasive species non-native plant mapping that we have been doing with collaboration with the county, Maricopa County Parks and Rec, the McDowell Sonoran Conservancy, and a whole host of other folks, Whiting Mountains Conservancy, Arizona Sustainability Alliance. There's a lot of people that have now become involved in our regional invasive species mapping. And there's a little close-up of McDowell Regional Park and the work that they've been doing to map invasive species. And so this has been an ongoing process for a few years now, but the real collaborative effort of us coming together to use the same app, to use the same map, and to use the same sort of protocols and trainings, this really started happening in the last year and a half or so, and it's come together under the banner of Desert Defenders, which is the new program, not a new program, but the branded program in which we're going to move ahead with this and really try to grow out this initiative to not only encompass the invasive species mapping and monitoring and removal efforts, but also help in educating the public and raising awareness on invasive species, the wildfire risks that are involved, and all the other different things that are sort of tied tangentially to this, native plants and the urban mapping that still has to happen, where the invasive species are within the urban core. So there's a lot of work that is still to come, but this has been an incredible effort that really has come together under the helm of a couple of organizations that are really invested in moving invasive species forward, but then also just the shared citizen science effort of it, and having volunteers from across the region come together to, again, with that democratization of data and having them be a part of the process in gathering data and helping us move the initiative forward, and hopefully towards an invasive species, regional plan or some sort of help or a product that can help with that as well.
Can I add one?
Of course.
So Anya briefly touched on this. I think besides the combined effort, one of the things that I kind of wanted people to get out of the inset map of McDowell, Sonoran, and the regional park is sort of the fine scale of the data. This wouldn't be possible at a regional level, except that we are working together and we have these citizen scientists on the ground. So this is going to allow us to think about not only management at a park level, because by necessity that will end up happening, but regionally as well, and also monitoring what happens over time in a really cost-effective way. This really wouldn't be possible without all the citizen science volunteers that we have. Although some of these dots are from me and Anya hiking.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to add that these tools are coming together to help us figure out together as a region what are the solutions to some of these issues like invasive species, and how can we work together to inform ourselves about what's happening and how to move forward managing sort of problems at this scale. So that's all I had to add, Anya. Thanks.
Great, thank you. And yeah, so we're mapping a range of species. The different colors are indicative of a different species. If you're interested in what the yellow is, that's stinknet, as I'm sure you might have guessed. So yeah, there's a really great effort, and very excited about where this project will go. And so then moving into CAZCA on the ground, and kind of going into some of the initiatives and programs. And we've mentioned a few of them already, but this will just take a closer look at what we have going on. So you all know the different programs and initiatives that we're helping lead and facilitate with our partners. And so these are our 6 main initiatives. And of course, we are involved in co-hosting or facilitating different projects and initiatives with our partners, but these are the ones that we are helping lead. And so there's Desert Defenders, which is that invasive species monitoring, mapping, removal efforts. The map that you were just looking at is the map that we're using for the Desert Defenders program. There is the Metro Phoenix Ecoflora, which is our newest program. We're very excited about this program as well, and we'll touch on it a little more deeply in just a few minutes. There is the Sonoran Seed Collaborative, which is a native plant project that we're helping facilitate to grow, test, and really find what those best practices are for propagating species, native plant species for the Sonoran Desert for future harvesting of seeds and really restoration projects in the region. We also have the Sonoran Insiders program. We're piloting this new social media ambassador program to really help leverage the local influencer audiences for stewardship and conservation messaging, while also providing the insiders, the ambassadors, opportunities to learn more and become even more involved with conservation and different restoration work, and just generally education work around conservation and the preservation of our public lands and our national forests as well. And the CAZCA Greenprint, we briefly touched on that. And the Collaboration Hub, the CAZCA Hub, is sort of our newest program that we have, and coming soon really for our partners. We really hope that the hub will become a platform where we can share data, we can share resources, and keep our partners and collaborating organizations up to date on what the working groups are doing, and any information that's coming out of that. And of course, just in general, become a resource for our partners in the region. And so just touching base on some of these programs a little more closely, as you guys have heard, the CAZCA Greenprint is a mapping tool that is designed to help identify solutions to balance the recreational needs, enhance quality of life, and protect that critical habitat of the Sonoran Desert. And so we also, as we mentioned, we also gave trainings to our different partners and other organizations in the Valley on how to use the Greenprint. And of course, how do you use the Greenprint to benefit your organization, whether it's planning or whether it's finding where there is park need in your local neighborhood. And this is all information that the Green Print can help provide. And of course, it's going back to that democratization of data that we were talking about, where CAZCA offers these trainings in order to make use of the Green Print with how our stakeholders really want to use it. So we're excited about this, and we really have great plans for the Green Print and going through updates and all of that. So this, we hope to be a tool that planners can use and the community can use as well. The Sonoran Insiders is a program that we're piloting with local social media influencers to help raise awareness on regional conservation challenges. In turn, our ambassadors are provided with experiences, tours, and of course, this is before COVID. So right now, we're really trying to figure out what our next steps are going to be in terms of how do we engage our influencers virtually and what opportunities we can provide. If you guys are at all interested, we are giving a Hiking 101 webinar hosted by our Sonoran Insiders, who are avid outdoors people. And we see now with COVID the surge in visitors to parks and natural areas. And so we are hoping that through this Hiking 101 webinar, for example, we can really share what are those best practices, such as leave no trace, with those new hikers and even the most experienced hikers who maybe just need a refresher. So if opportunities like that, we hope to continue giving not only to our ambassadors, but help our ambassadors grow themselves by helping us provide these opportunities. And again, sharing those conservation practices and knowledge. We know social media can also sometimes spread really bad habits. So a lot of times influencers aren't aware that you shouldn't be off trail, or that, maybe you shouldn't cut the flowers that you see. So there's a whole bunch of different behaviors that we're seeing in social media that we hope to mitigate and lift up a different kind of voice about how to really be in the outdoors and how to recreate responsibly. And these are our pictures. This is from our first event with our Sonoran Insiders. And here is Sean and Lisa, some of our great ambassadors, and they are fantastic. Some of a different program is our Sonoran Seed Collaborative, which we touched on. Again, this is a collaborative project that we are moving forward with the Tobre Carrara Association, the Garden Club of America, Habitat Enhancements, which is Carrie Ann Campbell down in Tucson. She's been amazing. And so this is a really aiming at native plant material development and the huge need that we have to have native plant material available for us for restoration use. And so we are really hoping that through this project, this is only the beginning. We have a small plot at Tobre Castle. That picture in the far right corner is of our site. A couple months ago now, our plants are actually growing and thriving, but we are really hoping that we can be able to provide guidelines and information to partners who would want to start developing their own sites, so that we have that information available about what those best practices are, what we've learned so far about growing these native species in different environments. And so right now we're excited. We have this plot at Tobre Castle, and we are also moving forward with a plot with our partner Maricopa County Parks. And so this is what our plants sort of look like right now. We are growing sweet bush. They are definitely thriving, as well as senna, which is very much just volunteering itself throughout our plot. So we're taking advantage of that as well. But we're very excited, and we are very thankful to the volunteers that are also helping us with this from the Arizona Columbine Garden Club here locally. So again, this collaborative effort with the City of Phoenix as well. So excited to see where this program goes and how it can keep growing with our different partners. And Desert Defenders, we've touched on this a couple of times, but this is that regional collaborative program to map, survey, and remove invasive species. If you're interested in right now, joining now, we have an iNaturalist project going on, and the name is you can search for StinkNet Desert Defenders, and we're trying to continually map StinkNet. Usually we give trainings with our specific app that we use, which is Collector. We had to take a pause because of COVID, and so we sort of stopped the trainings, but we're hoping to move forward soon in the fall after we meet with the invasive species working group that we have. But this is, again, that really huge collaborative regional effort that we have going on to map the invasive species like stinknet, like bufflegrass, and you're familiar with the map that you just saw. but this is now under the title of Desert Defenders, and we're moving forward with collateral. We're really hoping to expand the program to have an annual wildfire campaign and really getting that information out about the connection between invasive species and wildfire risk, and really what people can do, what you and I can do on a sort of on our property or on a daily basis to ensure that we are being more mindful of these species and just learning more about how we can raise our native biodiversity. So this is another one of our programs. And then EcoFlora is their newest program that is really focusing on that urban core. And like I was saying before, you can't take the urban core out of the equation when we're talking about conservation and really moving the ROS forward. And so this is one way in which we are really hoping to learn more about the biodiversity that is in our urban and suburban spaces. And the EcoFlora project uses iNaturalist to map to observe, the different flora and fauna that you can find in the Metro Phoenix area. And so they do monthly eco-quests, focusing on specific species or some types of species. And we are looking forward to doing webinars and trainings for the volunteers and the folks that are actually following the iNaturalist project. And so we're really excited about learning more about the biodiversity of our metro area. And actually, I think just today I heard that we observed a species, and I'm so sorry, I'm forgetting what species it was, but it's never actually been seen in our urban area. So things like that is what we're really excited about. What is hiding in our urban core, and how can we learn more about what is thriving there too? So I invite you to visit our website to learn more about this project. And so we did an eco-quest on willow and the different willows and where they are in our urban areas. We also did one recently, actually it's ending this month, but it's Sonoran Survivors. It's really finding where those species that are resistant or hardy after wildfires. So helping us find where those species are in our urban areas. And we're looking forward to our August EcoQuest, which is really about monsoon species. So hopefully maybe we can just manifest the monsoons by trying to look for things that like creosote and like different amphibian species and things like that. So really trying to engage the just regular folks to really care and learn more about the Sonoran Desert, and focusing on again, that urban biodiversity and helping people connect to nature in a different way. And this is like I was saying, the hub. This is coming soon. We're building it right now as we speak, and we're very, very close to finishing it. But this will be our platform where we hope our partners can share their data, share their work, and engage each other in a different way, in a digital way, to hopefully increase collaboration, increase that resource sharing. We often get the question of who's doing what in the Valley, who has wildlife cams out there and who's looking into this. And we hope that through this website and the partner initiatives, we can slowly keep track of what partners are doing and how we can collaborate and engage in a better way. So this is coming soon to our website. Right now it is built and you can actually access it, but we're still putting in the information in the back end. So more to come on this, but we're excited about, again, moving that collaboration forward and what we can do to ensure that we're doing it better. And that's it. That's all we got for today. And so we're definitely open to questions.